My name is Maria, and you're listening to the podcast where we deconstruct someone's PhD experience so that you can reconstruct your own. This is a journey with many challenges, but you might find yourself in a similar situation as one of the guests here. Enjoy listening. Hello, curious researchers. Let me introduce you to Suzan. Suzan is a PhD who is working experimentally in the lab, and her PhD largely depends on the results that she gets from the lab. Now, during one of the experiments that take a very long time, a few months, she makes a mistake that brings her 4 steps backwards. I believe that you already have a voice in your head that said something you can identify with this situation. In this current situation, her voice was, "You idiot, you should be working in a supermarket." And what happened is that it took a while for Suzan to calm down. And calming down didn't mean letting go of the voice. It just meant being extremely irritated and punishing herself and repeating this voice over and over and over and over again. So by the time she managed to lower the voice in her head, she was less pissed, but the voice kept lingering on. The voice was there all the time. And what this voice was saying, you have to be perfect. How come you made this mistake? You are not allowed to make a mistake. This will cost you so much time. We don't have so much time. And ultimately, the message that this voice is sending is you are worthy only when you have results. Right now, you are nobody to me and you are worthless. But when you have these results, I will pay attention to you and I will give you a nice word. And this nice word will be one word of encouragement before continuing to the next quest and next pressure and next challenge. And challenges are good, yes, but the voice that is running in our mind is going to determine how are we going towards that challenge. How are you going towards your PhD? Are you bullying yourself all the time? Or is there another voice? Is there another voice that is more caring, that is more loving? How does this voice look like? And I would invite you to really put this down on paper. And oh boy, this is so difficult because we are so used to hearing this critic. We are so used to sabotaging ourselves. We are so used to hearing better, not good enough, you can do more, etc. And this voice is usually taken from a person in our life who had an influential role, whether it be our parents or a teacher or any kind of educator or, let's say, authority figure who was determining what happens with us when we were kids. And right now, who determines what happens? You might believe that it's the professor and that you largely depend on your professor, but actually, there's always an opportunity to quit. There is always an opportunity to change the professor. Your career will not be destroyed or determined by this one experience. Absolutely not. If anything, academia as it is nowadays is an environment that does not charge a high price for whatever, unfortunately. So let's go back to your case. What are the voices that you want to cultivate during the PhD? What are the voices that can help you? And what can help is really to go through this exercise over days. It doesn't happen in one sitting. And I can tell you this from experience because this is the exercise we have been doing in the coaching training, where we really identify different figures and different voices and even made a kind of a theater show. We made it as a central stage and backstage and seeing where each of these would sit. How loud are they in your head? How important are they? How important would you like them to be? If you want to be run by the critic, go for it. If you want to have another one on the central stage, maybe the first step is to identify them, who they are, how do they behave. How do you behave when you have the critic in your head, and how do you behave when you have another voice in your head? Because you don't always have the critic. You have maybe for a majority of the time during the PhD, but when you are out in the city, when you are doing your hobbies, when you are enjoying time with your loved ones, there is another voice as well. Sure, the critic is there, of course, but the other ones take age as well. If you are interested in more literature, I can really recommend Positive Intelligence from Shirzad Chamine. He used to be the CEO of the International Coaching Federation, and now he has been looking at the brain and the neuroscience and really noticed that there are these different regions in the brain where we have the critic and all the saboteurs, and he calls it the judge and the saboteurs, and where we have this other more compassionate part of ourselves, which he calls the sage, so the wise part of ourselves. And you definitely have the wise part of yourself. Because remember, when you were a kid, you did not have these voices integrated in you. You just had the desire to run wild and run free. And this was really the sage and the wise part of yourself. There were so many things that you did unconsciously before these voices were integrated into you. So don't lose hope. This is just opening the Pandora's box. It's not pleasant because we have to look the critic in the eye. If we really want to move forward, we have to become very familiar with it. And we also have to accept it. We have just integrated it thinking that it's going to serve us very well and it's going to protect us so much. So as a message that I want to send is that we are our biggest saboteurs. You may believe that your professor is in front of you and he is the one who is slowing down your progress or sabotaging you or criticizing you, but pay attention to those voices inside of you. For me, this is extremely exciting. I love chatting with people and discovering their different personas, what they have developed over time, because we have very different experiences. And based on those experiences, we have developed different voices and personas that we take on in different situations. So I'm really curious to explore this with you. I invite you to book a discovery call where we can talk about the judge, the critic, the wise part of yourself, the loving part of yourself. All the parts of yourself are very, very, very welcome. I will see you there. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If there was anything that you discovered or found remotely interesting, do share. I'm always curious to hear what is it that you resonated with. See you in the next episode.